In this video, I'm going to give you my full review of the Galaxy S10 Plus and whether or not I think it's worth its price tag. Now, if you're new to the channel, what I try to do here is look at tech through a real-world lens, and today what that means is looking at the S10 Plus and what it's like actually using that phone on a day-to-day basis. So we'll start off with what I liked about the phone, move into what I didn't like, and then finish things off with a conclusion and my final thoughts. And as always, time codes in the description down below if you want to jump around a little bit. And with that, let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so the flow of this video. We're going to start off with some disclaimers, move into what I like, what I didn't like, and then finish off with a conclusion. So first off, the disclaimers. I used this phone for about 3 weeks as my daily driver, which means that I used it every single day. I purchased the phone with my own money from Samsung.com. I didn't pay $1,000 for it. I paid about $650 for it when all was said and done. Link in the description if you want to take advantage of that offer as well. But I will be doing this review as if the phone was $1,000 because that's what it retails for. And the final disclaimer, this video is being shot on a Google Pixel 2 XL. If this tablecloth looks a little bit weird, just bear with me, I promise it'll get better throughout the video. So starting off with the good, the cameras. The cameras are good. They're not the best that I've ever used, but they are good. I really like the UI that Samsung went with for the cameras, and I want to show you guys that really quick. So if you guys have watched any content on this phone at all, you know it has 3 different cameras on the back of it, and you can switch between those lenses pretty seamlessly. So right here over on the right side, you see we've got the 2 trees as the default or normal shooting mode. You can also click the single tree, which is a telephoto zoom. So again, let me try to show you guys these boxes. That's normal, and that's telephoto. And then you can click the 3 trees below it, which is a wide angle. So you can switch between all of these pretty seamlessly, and these options stay there on video. So you can see over here, we're on video now. There's the normal, there's the wide angle, and the telephoto. Now, I wish they would have done something different instead of these 3 trees over there on the right side, but hey, it's simple enough once you figure it out. It took me a second, but after I played around with it a little bit, it was pretty easy to understand. Now, the last thing I want to show you with the camera is just one picture, and there is a reason for me showing you this one picture. So as you can see there's a picture of my dog. I thought it looked cute looking out the window, so I snapped a quick picture of him. And when I took this picture, the window there in the background was super blurry. But as you can see, the picture's not blurry around the window. So it's not just blown out by sunlight shining in. You can even see this car out there in the distance. You can see the marks that he's made there on the window with the slobber. So Samsung did some post-processing there to make the picture actually take really well, and I like that a lot. So next up, and for some reason people just keep glossing over this one on the sites that I've looked at and the YouTube videos I've watched, the hole punch display. And the reason I have this listed as a positive is because it doesn't bother me, and I thought it might. So you can clearly see the hole up there on the top right of the phone. This is the Plus model, obviously, so we've got 2 cameras instead of just the 1. But it really doesn't bug me. If you've been around the channel at all, you know that I hate notches, unless it's like the little teardrop or water drop notch you see on the Mate 20X, the OnePlus 6T, and some Xiaomi phones like that. But this hole punch display doesn't bother me. Now, something to show you guys, if I jump into something like Samsung's default browser, you can see there at the top of the screen, the status bar is all black, so the camera kind of blends in. You just have these icons pushed over to the right side. So I think that really helps. Now, I want to show you something really quick in the settings. Is if you look at the status bar, you can see I have it set to 3 recent notifications, meaning up here it's only going to show me 3 icons for my 3 most recent notifications instead of all of them, which kind of keeps the clutter down up there. Now, this is something that I prefer to not have at all. I prefer no notch and no hole punch, but hey, I like this better than the really big notch. I do still prefer the little water drop notch better, but hey, that's just my preference. Now, the last thing to note with the hole punch display, you can hide it. It's under hide front camera because Samsung doesn't want to call it what it is. But as you can see, now we have this huge black bezel at the top and a small one at the bottom, so the phone just looks weird, which is one of the reasons why I have left that option enabled. But hey, I did want to call it out for you guys so you know that it exists. Now, next up is the screen, and this one's kind of hard to show you because you're looking at a phone through the camera that I'm recording on, through the thing that you're viewing it on. So take this for what you will. But the screen is definitely good. You guys have probably heard this called the best smartphone display of all time. And while there might be some merit to that, it doesn't blow away any other Samsung AMOLED phone that I have seen. It does look really good, but it doesn't blow anything away, if that makes sense. So is it the best? Sure, but are you going to notice it unless you're looking at something side by side? Probably not, but hey, the screen does look good. That is worth calling out, credit where it's due. Now, where I notice the screen the most is with the brightness levels. So when you turn the brightness all the way down, which I can't show you on camera because the Pixel 2 XL won't even pick it up, is that when you turn the brightness all the way down, the colors still remain constant. And what I mean by that is if you look at this side by side, something like the Pixel 2 XL, if you turn the brightness all the way down there, especially if what you're watching is darker content, the colors aren't going to be washed out in the sense that they look washed out, but they all kind of like run together. It's really hard to differentiate between colors. Not so on the S10 Plus. The colors remain constant. Still easy to differentiate everything, so hats off to Samsung there. Again, credit where it is due. And the final thing that I like, the speakers are good. Not the best I've ever heard, but they are still good. Number 1 is still the Pixel 3, and number 2 is the Mate 20X. Now these speakers are probably online with something like the Pixel 2 XL. You have stereo speakers, one at the top, and one bottom firing one there. They do get loud, but there's not a lot of bass presence, which is really disappointing for me. I mean, even on bass-heavy songs, there's just not a lot of bass there. And I don't want the bass to be overpowering, but I do want to hear it, if that makes sense. So the speakers are good, but one thing that I think you guys need to know, when you play the speakers loud on the phone, the entire phone vibrates. Now, I think that's because it's a glass phone, glass front, glass back, and you've got all this sound coming through it, so you feel the entire phone vibrate. Now, if you've been around the channel at all, you know that I hate cases, so I've got a D-brand skin here on the back, so maybe if you use a case, it's not that big a deal, but it does feel weird. It makes the phone feel oddly cheap when the entire thing vibrates just because you turn up the volume. So that's all the good. Moving into the bad. Now these first two things I'm going to try to combine into one. Stutter and lag on the lock screen, and the fingerprint sensor. And let me try to show that to you guys here. Now just for transparency's sake, when I'm setting up a new smartphone, the finger that I'm going to use the most to unlock it, I register twice. So this thumb is registered twice, this index finger is registered twice. So let's see how this does, and this might be a little bit longer clip because I want you guys to get an idea of what it's like using this every day. Now placing my index finger on the screen there, not even on it. Put it over top of it, there we go, it unlocked, but did you see that? There's like that S3 water droplet effect that kind of hangs on the screen, and then the screen to one of these, like bop bop, if that makes sense at all. Like the screen came on, then it flickered and came back on a second time. Let's look at that again. No match. Second time got in. Didn't happen that time. Let's do it one more time. There we go. There's that flicker. It's really weird. Like I have the animations turned down in the settings, turned down again in the developer options, but yet that's still happening. So I don't know if this is an actual lag thing or a Samsung thing or the fingerprint sensor thing. I don't know, but it's there and it's really bizarre on a phone this expensive for that to be happening. So the whole point of that was to try and show you guys the stutter that you sometimes see on that lock screen, where you'll either get the hanging animation or the phone will like come on then come on a second time, and to try and show you the fingerprint sensor. And for me, it's only working 50 to 60% of the time. It's been pretty bad. I really don't like it. I don't know why they didn't just go ahead and slap one on the back again, or even on the side like they did with the S10e, but hey, this is what we got, so that's what I got to talk about. Next up is the volume controls in One UI, and I will be making a full video on this. I'll link it in the description as soon as it's published, but they're weird. So let me bring this closer to the camera so you guys can hopefully see it better. Unlike stock Android or any other skin that I've used, when you push the volume button, you just see that one menu. So it's the ringtone, so it's trying to show you a contextual menu, which is really annoying to me. And you probably can't see this on camera, but there's a little faint white bar there in the bottom middle. So you can actually slide that menu down, and there's your full context controls. So media volume all the way up, ringtone is not up at all, but again, I don't have the option to change those things all at once like you do on something like MIUI, or even on OnePlus or stock Android. So that seems like a weird design choice to me. Maybe you guys dig it, it is subjective, so if you like it, you know, that's fair, cool, I'm happy you do. But tying that into One UI, this feels like TouchWiz 2.0. Like there's some cool, helpful things, like here at the bottom is trying to recommend apps that I use a lot, because maybe that's what I'm trying to jump back into. But the optimization just is not there. And if you guys ever used TouchWiz, there was a bunch of features in it, but the optimization just wasn't there. That was the big knock on it. And One UI feels like a lot of the same. So One UI has been a mixed bag for me. It looks good enough, but then you have things like they're trying to improve one-handed usage. So if we go into settings right here, for example, you can see that big bar at the top so that everything's reachable here with one hand. But the power button is so far up on the right side, it's really hard to reach. And I even have relatively large hands. We do this thing with the sound, and again, volume key on the other side instead of having it on this side like everybody else. Volume key, we get this contextual menu that we have to slide down and use a second hand, so I don't know, man. It's been a really mixed bag for me. So next up, the curved screen sucks. I hate it, I think it sucks, I think it's as dumb as the notch. And I'll link a video down in the description where I said the curved screen is useless. Changed my mind. If you guys want to check out that video, I'll go more in depth there than I will right here. But in a nutshell, I'm about 6'1", Look how skinny I am. You can see my skinny wrists, skinny hands, skinny fingers, and I still have accidental touches all the time. Just think about texting when you're holding the phone like this, or even trying to use your gesture input. You know, you do this, and you can see the side of my palm there is already starting to wrap on the screen. I just have accidental touches all the time. This curved screen does look really cool if you've never used one before. It's a cool aesthetic, but that's about it. Next up is the battery life, and this is the one thing that I thought this phone would have going for it, and it doesn't. The battery life sucks. I'm getting 5 to 6 hours screen on time with my normal usage on this phone, and this battery is way too big for that to happen. It's a 4100 milliamp hour battery, which tells me that Samsung's optimization, again, probably with One UI, just is not there. And I've tried things like making sure the screen's at 1080p instead of 1440p to help with the battery life, and for whatever reason it doesn't. I think it's just the optimization thing. Maybe it gets better with time, but 5 to 6 hours for a phone that's this expensive, that's just unacceptable. That barely gets me through a day, and I don't even use my phone that heavily throughout the day. So yeah, battery, even on the Plus model with the biggest battery out of all of them, just really disappointing. And the final thing, the phone just doesn't feel that fast. This is running a Snapdragon 855, currently the fastest chip on the market, the fastest storage ever put on a smartphone, and 8 gigs of RAM. And it still doesn't feel as fast as phones I use with the Snapdragon 845, like Xiaomi flagships or OnePlus phones. Now I get it, this is the first phone Samsung launched with One UI, but that's not my problem and it's not your problem either. If you're ready to drop $1,000 on a phone, shouldn't it feel like the fastest thing ever, especially with this hardware inside of it? And maybe I'm preaching to the choir here, and I know Samsung phones are popular. I'm not trying to say this is a bad phone. I'm just disappointed for the amount of money that it costs. So all of that brings us to the conclusion. What do I think about this phone? Am I going to keep it, and would I recommend it? This phone has some great cameras, not the best on the market, but still has some great cameras that are really fun and easy to use. Again, I love being able to switch from wide angle to normal to telephoto, all just from one easy click. But you're going to have to deal with a curved screen, subpar battery life, hole punch display, fingerprint sensor that works 50% of the time, maybe 60% of the time. So it's all going to depend on your preferences. Would I recommend you spend $1,000 for this phone? Absolutely not. In fact, unless you really want a big phone, I would recommend the S10e over the S10 or S10 Plus. But like I said, it's not a bad phone, and if you're really wanting it, my suggestion would be take a look at Samsung.com at their trade-in options. Check the link in the description below to see that video on how you can save a lot of money on this phone, and if you want to, you can still break the phone up in payments. So as far as my stamps of approval, no, I will not be hanging on to this phone, even though I do really like the camera, because there's too many negatives for how much the phone costs. And that's going to do it for this one, guys. I'm not sponsored or affiliated with Dbrand at all, but I hate cases. I do really like Dbrand skins. They're pretty grippy, they're usually pretty well cut, and that's what you see here. I don't remember which skin this is, but I do like their products overall. Now don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more content like this in the future. Thanks so much for watching to the end, and I'll see you in the next one.